I've got to take you off mute before.
You know, I was waiting. I was going to start it this time too, being like, hello, fellow streakers. Hello, Jeffrey. I had all kinds of things to say.
And I had you on mute.
I was on mute. But I heard you the other day talking on something for work, and you said, I think the most used phrase of the year 2020 and probably the first part of 2021 is, you're on mute. Because of all of our Zoom meetings and how often we're talking.
Well, we're back with you, fellow streakers, and we have Tyler and Laurel still with us, which is great.
Welcome back. We're excited.
We're so excited. Thanks. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things with them today, especially into some of their articles and what they've been writing of late and some things that might be planned. The month of March has been the month of luck because of St. Patrick's Day and what we've been doing there. And we've been talking a lot about luck, and you guys have written some articles on luck, what that is. Would you call it, so you wrote on Tom Brady, would you call him lucky?
No, not at all. I mean, with all the
but
stuff
some people might, though.
Sure.
I mean, some people might look at it and say, he was born in the right circumstances. He did the right thing, or not. He did the right things is probably not, but it's just serendipitously he was bestowed upon from the football gods that he was just that good.
That's only all of us who aren't willing to put in the level of effort that he's put in. It's easy to just be like, oh, he's just lucky.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in just a second. I just wanted to, just as we're going through here, we're going to talk about not only luck, but also some of the things that Laurel has been studying of late and her professional streak around the women's suffrage movement. As well as, what was the other lucky article that you wrote? It was
being prepared when luck comes.
When opportunity strikes.
Yes, that was it.
One of my favorite conversations I've had with Laurel was one time we were sitting outside of a driveway, and she was talking to me about your passion for education and how you had what your desire was to make higher education available to as many people as possible. I've loved that. And so a lot of her streaks, you can tell, center around that passion.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, let's get started. I wanted to go just a little bit further into your journey, and then we'll get into those, because we were talking about your journey the last time, and now you've been in the journey for your longest streak is almost 3 years, Tyler.
Yeah,
and yours, right. Laurel, is approaching 3 years.
Behind.
Yeah, a little bit behind that as well. And this is the question I wanted to ask you last time that I'm going to spring on you this time. Is there a difference that you see now between a streak and a habit? I mean, that is something, because a lot of people talk about habits, and you even were tracking your streaks on Habit Tracker or something like that.
Right.
So is there a difference in your mind, and what is that difference that you see?
Go ahead.
Habits. There is definitely a difference. And I feel like it's really hard to create a habit, and that a better word, if I was trying to create something that was like a habit in my life, would be a routine, maybe, instead of a habit. For me, sometimes a habit feels like a bad thing. You know, like I have a habit of biting my fingernails, or I have a habit of whatever, something that you're trying to break and stop doing, because there are not a lot of things in my life I want to do unconsciously. And for me, that's the definition of a habit, something that you do without thinking about it. Yeah. And so, there are not a lot of things that I want to have just be unconscious.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's easy to mistake those two, a habit and a streak, and what a habit really is. A habit really is how I tie my shoes every morning. And it's not something I think about or anything like that. And so I've been under this mistaken idea that if you do something long enough, it'll be a habit that you just won't even think about it. And I just haven't found that to be true in things that matter. Yeah. There are some things that don't matter, like how I tie my shoes, that are habits. But the things that matter to me, it's not just an automatic, oh yeah, I just did that without thinking.
We recently repainted our closet. So we took everything out.
Let me amend that just a little bit. We were not going to repaint the closet because we're in the midst of moving, and the master closet is very large. And all of a sudden I came up one day and Jamie had removed all the clothes from the closet and all the shelves. And I said, oh, we're painting the closet.
I could not let the potential of that room go without fixing it.
And it is beautiful now. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous.
But it was interesting. So we took everything out, and when I put everything back, I had a basket that was on your side of the closet that contained my gloves and my ear things that I use for running or walking each day.
Right.
And when I put everything back, I thought, I should put that on my side of the closet. So I did. So I moved it to my side of the closet. I don't know how long ago we painted the closet. It's been several weeks. I I still, every time I go upstairs to get my gloves and my hat to go out and run, I walk over to your side of the closet.
Yeah.
Every single
time without thinking.
And then I get
That's
there and
a
I'm
habit.
like, I moved it to the other side. That is a habit. It
Yeah.
is totally a habit. And I'm working hard to break that habit.
And-
But it's interesting. I didn't intentionally try to create
Right.
that, but it's there. I
Well,
do
and
it
that's
without
where
thinking.
one of the things that you said, Tyler, is, and I wanted to go back to it. It was about that the habit is you don't on things that matter.
Yeah,
that was
things
it.
that matter.
You said things that matter are not habitual. They don't. So in other words, it doesn't matter whether or
Doesn't
not your
matter
basket
what-
is on the
no.
right side or the left side. But to your point, you said that really what the streak is the conscious, consistent action that you choose to do on a daily basis, and you focus on how long.
Yeah. Things that matter to me.
For
Yeah.
those things that matter.
And if you want it to change you, if you want it to contribute to your growth, it needs to be that way. It needs to not be something that you don't think about, or else there's no change.
Right. So I think that's a good segue into your articles, Laurel, that you've been writing. So you have a professional streak of what, and tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that. And then let's talk a little bit about the articles you've written lately.
So I recently finished a master's degree in history, and every now and again I'll call myself a historian, but I feel like I'm not quite there. It's imposter syndrome.
Yes.
I don't know at what point I get to say that, but so one of the things in my efforts to not feel like an imposter saying I'm a historian is I have a streak of doing one item of research a day, and it can be on whatever, so that to make it laughably simple, lots of times I'm researching for an article that I'm writing for streaking, or sometimes I'm researching for a lesson that I'm going to teach in my church responsibilities. And that is, I think I just passed 100 days.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
that's
So this is a more recent one.
recent streak.
I mean, even though it's been 100 days, that would be something that's a little bit more recent as far as
Right.
that's
Right, one of
concerned.
my newer streaks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
107.
107 days. Congratulations. So, question for you, just a more curious question. Why history? What is it about history that you love? How come you decided history?
So my undergrad was also in history, and I started out as a music major, and it was really hard. And then I would just joke to my roommates, I'm going to quit and become a history major. And so I did.
So you would tell it as a joke,
Yeah.
and then you actually did it.
My
Oh, that's
first year
great.
in the music program, I was like, this is the worst. I'm going to quit and do history. And then after that first year, I was like, yeah. History is where it's at.
History's where it's at.
Yeah, I love the stories. I love especially being able to pull things out that are not part of the mainstream. And I also love the critical thinking that comes from looking at history and from recognizing that we all have a point of view. We call it bias, and everyone thinks bias is a bad thing. It's not. We just all have a lens that we look through.
Yeah.
And so being able to look through other people's lenses and identify that kind of thing, yeah. All of it's fascinating to me.
Wow.
I'll talk the rest of the time about it.
Well, that's
I won't.
fantastic.
I'm
Well,
just
what we want. So you, as you've picked up streaking, you've started to see streaks in history
Oh, yeah.
that have, and that's one of the things that Jamie and I saw as we were researching streaking all together, is that those individuals who are masters at what they do, they're the ones that excel. They unintentionally
Or
do
innately,
intentional
kind
things
of.
innately.
They
I think that'd be the
innately
way.
follow this
innately
and-
follow the laws of streaking. I mean, they are intentional about what they do, and they keep track of it, and they create a community around it. So you were talking about, and this article absolutely fascinated me, about the women's suffrage movement. Tell us a little bit about that and how you saw that as a streak.
Yeah, so there's a group of women known as the Silent Sentinels who were really the first people to protest in front of the White House. You see it all the time now, but they were the first ones. They'd stand out there with banners. At the time, President Woodrow Wilson was in office, and he thought that suffrage should be a state's thing and not a federal thing. But these women were really pushing for a federal amendment, which now is the 19th Amendment. And it's because of their streak for 2.5 years, 6 days a week, they would be outside the White House protesting. They're called the Silent Sentinels because people would yell at them and be rude, and they wouldn't answer. They'd just stand there with their banners. They protested through World War I. They protested on President Wilson's inauguration day.
Yeah.
And really, it was them that led President Wilson to backing a federal amendment for women's suffrage. And even after he put in his support, they kept their streak until the amendment was passed in the House and then the Senate. And then
Really?
they turned to now going out to the states and making sure all the states ratified it.
How long was their streak, did you say?
It was like 125 weeks, so a little
Wow.
more than 2.5 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That is absolutely phenomenal.
I loved that one, they're silent. So in other words, you just notice them, but they're not screaming for your attention.
Yeah.
And that because of that consistency, I think that's what, I mean, when you talk about Woodrow Wilson, he started to notice and think, okay. And in my mind, as you were telling the story, I thought he probably noticed two things. One, he noticed these women aren't leaving. They're still here. And two, in my mind, you would next ask the question, well, why? Obviously, this is something very important to them.
Yeah.
Which fits in with a streak. You're not doing this. You're not stopping. You're continuing to do this. Why? Because this is something that's really important to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they purposely chose to end the streak rather than breaking the streak. It had filled its purpose, which I think is also another methodology thing to think about. Like sometimes there's a time where my streak is done. It's filled its job, and now I'm ready to move on.
I'm ready to move on.
And there's something really fulfilling about when you decide to end a streak. Now, interestingly enough, I think, Jamie, you've decided to end one or two streaks. I mean, like purposely. I haven't ended one yet. Now, I've broken a couple, but I haven't ended any yet. Obviously, I've got a lot more growth in the areas where I've chosen to streak. However, what you said is there is something fulfilling. I remember when we were researching and looking at Cal Ripken Jr., and when he decided to end his streak of consecutive baseball games played in the Major League Baseball, it was at 2,632. So in his 2,633rd game, it was no fanfare. There was no announcement that was made. Basically, he went to his manager and said, you know what? I think I'm done with the streak and everything else. And when he didn't come on the field, it was a real big surprise to everyone. And they applauded and cheered. And it was a moment where I think you feel a lot of satisfaction. I'd love to, one of my dreams, there you go, is to have Cal Ripken Jr. on our podcast. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be amazing.
I mean, he is what I look at as one of the OG streakers.
That's right.
He set the whole idea of consecutive streaks. But honestly, it was actually the women's suffrage movement, these Silent Sentinels, that was even way before him, that the consistency was the thing that got noticed. They didn't have to say a lot. They didn't have to tear down monuments. They didn't have to, mess things up, scream people,
they
anything.
just were there.
We're going to be consistent every single day. And that made a massive change in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. And I loved that once the streak had fulfilled its purpose, they were okay to say, okay, we're done, which is, I feel like, what happened with us when someone said, well, you're just streaking to streak.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a really good thing to recognize. I don't want to be doing things in my life just for the streak. The purpose is that I want to become a better person. I want to grow. And
Absolutely.
so if I've done that with a certain streak and it's helped me get to that place, then it's okay to be like, wow, that was great. Celebrate that streak, and I don't need it anymore.
Right, exactly. So switching gears just a little bit, Tyler, you've also written lately, and with the Super Bowl that just ended, Tom Brady had his 7th victory. Is that right? Is it 7th Super Bowl victory? Is it number 7 or 6?
6 or 7?
6 or 7.
Blanked.
Both are amazingly impressive.
Yeah. It's one or the other,
That's right.
6 or 7. And those who are Patriot fans, we are sorry that we've just offended you.
Yeah.
Well, not only Patriots, but he played
And
the last one.
Buccaneers.
Yeah, the Buccaneers had that last one. But so you wrote that article. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to write it and what were some of the things that were inspiring to you.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, that's pretty lucky that he, won another Super Bowl at his age. And
you say that at his age.
In football age, he's up there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but there's a lot of things that go into that, and so I started to look into some of these things that he does to maintain his ability to play at that level. And one of the things he does, in addition to some routines and goals and things, is streaks. I mean, he has a daily streak to use this app and focus his mind and do some mental exercises and stuff like that to perform at that level.
Right.
And you think about luck, and you think. So just on kind of another topic, you look at some people and you think, oh man, they were lucky to be at this point in this time and start this business or whatever it may be. And so I think about that luck and think, what can you do to be prepared for that luck? And you can do it by, hey, I have an entrepreneurial streak. I can't say the word. The streak is to say that word.
That's it, yeah.
At least one time daily.
That's right. And no, it's some kind of streak of, hey, I want to connect with somebody one time a day, or I want to research some aspect of starting or running a business every day so that when that time comes, you're ready. And everybody could look at it from the outside and say, oh, that was just lucky that you were in the right position at the right time, right place at the right time. But you'd been doing things to prepare yourself for that moment.
To be in that place.
I think of Dave and the developers. Dave will often say the overnight success started 2 years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
overnight success takes 2 years. And I love that as you're talking, this idea and truth that they're prepared when it comes. And I think of a couple things. One, just to even be able to notice something when it's there. I think I read one of the articles that you had sent over, Laurel, that talked about someone that said to be able to recognize luck when it's standing there waving at you saying, hey, I'm here, notice me, and how busy we get with life and how easy it would be to not notice these things. The other thing I have loved is that as you talk, sometimes we know these things. We're like, okay, I know, like I'll look at someone and think, I know they weren't lucky. I know they put hard work in, but they're so far down that road. I don't know where to start personally. And that's what streaking for me has given me, that place where I look at it and think, well, at least I can start. I'm doing something.
Sure.
And then as you do that, doors that I didn't know were available will open up, or thoughts that I hadn't had before. Now I have a place for those thoughts because I'm creating that space for that thing to be happening consistently.
Yeah.
So you bring up something interesting. I have a confession to make.
Oh dear.
I started a new streak.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting, huh? Yeah.
All right.
It's and I have several. So to start a new one is takes a lot of energy. And what prompted the thought that I'm just about to share with you as far as why I decided to start this streak, or why to tell you that I started the streak, because it's like 3 days old. I mean, we are very in the beginning phases of it. You had mentioned how you see someone.
He says
that's
he's looking at me.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at Jamie.
Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie. Jamie, you mentioned that you see someone that's so far down the road, and what we do is we set up a comparison with them. And as we set up that comparison, I am not one for, I don't like the whole idea of comparisons, but I think that there's just something that natural that happens as we start to look around. That's a successful person. I want to do what that person does. In other words, there's a comparison. There's a little bit of a judgment, hopefully in a good and healthy way. Anyway, the streak that I started to set, or that I set and am now doing, was to learn, at least not even learn, it's review at least one thing on Final Cut Pro daily. So Final Cut Pro is a video editing software, and it's on Apple. And several years ago, I used to edit a lot of videos, and I used a different software program, and something that it was called Vegas Pro way back when I used it. Still one of the editing programs out there today. But since that time, I kind of let it go. And just recently, the spark had started again. I want to get into editing again. And I thought, you know what? I really enjoy when I can put something together in video and be able to produce it. And so I'm gonna do this now. And rather than going back to Vegas, because I now have all Apple products and Vegas doesn't work on an Apple product, so I thought, okay, I need to learn a new program. And I downloaded Final Cut Pro, and I am just completely lost. It is so hard because all the things that I knew in the other program, I appreciated and could go back to very quickly. Mm-hmm. But learning this new one, I have gotten frustrated. And so I thought the reason I have the streak is it's just open Final Cut Pro or review one thing in it daily. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I open it up, I start doing things, and I get frustrated. I'll watch a YouTube video on someone that's really good at it, and I watch their YouTube video, and I get even more frustrated because they're so far down the path that I can't even get there.
And you used to kind of be further down that path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you brought this up, and as we talk about getting ready for opportunity, it is the starting place where I'm just like, you know what? The streak, it's going to take a while, and that's okay.
Right.
And what I'm going to do is just every single day, one little thing that will help me as I pursue progression.
Yeah, I think the overnight success is a myth.
Yeah,
yeah, I think so too.
It absolutely
As you
is.
were talking, I was thinking about my experiences running and when I reached a point that I learned that my physical body could do more, but my mental held it back because I didn't believe that I could. Mm-hmm. But physically, my body could do more. And I look at it and I think that's so much of what streaking does is it gives us permission to be patient and to believe that we can do it by just doing a little bit each time or each day as we get to this place. And then we start to believe in ourselves.
Right.
And that's something that's super valuable.
So Lauryl, Tyler, as we're coming up on the end of the podcast, as you look forward now into streaking, I mean, do you see other streaks that are on the horizon or some of the other things? Lauryl, what do you see?
Yeah, one of the things I was just thinking about while you guys were talking is something that has happened for me as a result of streaking is that when I have a thought of there's something I want to improve in my life, my first thought is, can I set a streak around that? That in my mind, that's the most effective way. So do I want some streaks that are on the horizon? I'm going to have a drinking water streak, and I have really poor posture. So I'm going to have a posture streak.
You should know, Lauryl has said a couple of times she is a beautiful woman. I mean, if you saw her, she is absolutely gorgeous, has a great smile. Tyler is a very lucky man.
Yeah.
So.
and kind to people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, how could you get better? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry. I just wanted to
those are my on the horizon streaks, I think. But I was just thinking how cool it is.
I think I just got her to blush a little bit. You see that? I think I got a little blush in there. Tyler, how about you?
Yeah. I mean, so it's talking about entrepreneurial.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Mark it.
Check it out. Streaks. That is one that I want to look into and start doing. To at some point be a business owner, run a business, and have that opportunity.
I think that's fantastic. And as we build the streaking business, because that's one of the things we want to do is build the streaking business, Tyler and Lauryl are a big part of that, and we are so appreciative of that, along with all of our other OG streakers out there, at least the Streaking LLC, which is Talon and Dave. And
so as this has started, I'm just looking at you because this started as a book that Jeff and I wanted to write. This
started as a flossing your teeth.
Yes, this started flossing your teeth. And then it has turned into a business, which has been interesting for me because that was never on my agenda. But what I have loved as we have watched this is I absolutely love the community that's coming and hearing about different people's streaks. And I love being inspired by them. And I love that we have something that when we think about these things, we're like, okay, I've got a place I can start. And I really, really love the community. So please share your streaks as you come.
And that brings up on a future podcast, we got a really inspiring email or comment at the website that we're trying to get her permission right now to see if we can share that with you because
it's inspiring.
It is way inspiring. So if you have something to share with us, skip on over to streakingmastery.com. Also, Tyler and Lauryl and everyone are producing a newsletter. You can sign up for that at streakingmastery.com. Or if you just want to reach out to us directly, you ready? Here's all 4 of our email address. I'll start Jeffrey, Jefffery at streakingmastery.com.
Jamie, Jami at streakingmastery.com.
Tyler, Tyler at streakingmastery.com.
And Lauryl, Lauryl at streakingmastery.com.
All right, everyone. We are excited to talk to you next time. But until then,
keep streaking.
Make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry. Don't even worry. It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that